You hear it all the time. You hear these companies complaining, whining about how, oh, piracy is killing the gaming industry. Yet they are more than happy to take the community's supposedly illegal work and make money from these pirates. If you don't know what I'm talking about Rockstar Games, the regressive, malignant, and increasingly unproductive, terrible company. They're just horrible. And they revealed just how hypocritical and immoral they truly are. Well, they didn't. The community did, because of course that's what the community does. So what am I talking about? Well, it was revealed by GTA content creator Vadim M, who published a video on how Rockstar has been selling illegally cracked copies of their game Manhunt and Max Payne 2 through Steam for over a decade. Okay, so think about that for a second, right? Rockstar Games, subsidiary of Take-Two, these are two of the most hardline anti-piracy companies in the gaming industry. They cited the DMCA multiple times in order to take down the community-made reverse-engineered port of classic GTA games. Ports that only financially benefited them, by the way. You needed to own a copy of GTA in order to play these reverse-engineered ports. And these same companies have violated the DMCA against their own products in order to allegedly make illegal copies of their own games commercially available through Steam. Now, let me say that again. Rockstar Games has allegedly been selling illegal copies of their games through Steam. Those are some pretty bold claims, but I'm here to tell you that the evidence is pretty strong on this one. And the details here are quite damning too. So first of all, Manhunt is a game created by Rockstar that has two layers of copy protection. The first layer is SecuROM, which back in the day, we always used to call it SuccuROM. And basically it just requires that you have the game's original disc in your CD drive in order to play the game. And yes, Manhunt is that old. I feel incredibly old recognizing that fact. The second layer of protection is the custom anti-crack protection that makes the game unplayable if SuccuROM is not detected in the game's executable. So back in 2004, when the game was first released, the cracking group RAZER 1911 was able to produce a crack that essentially removed the SecuROM DRM while tricking the game's anti-crack protection into thinking it was still there. Pretty easy to do, honestly. And essentially, the custom anti-crack protection was left untouched because it couldn't detect that SecuROM had been removed in the first place. That was until Windows Vista, when additional security features in the OS allowed the game to actually detect that the cracked executable had SecuROM removed. By that time, Manhunt had been made available on Steam, and people started to notice that the game was no longer working properly on Windows Vista. For example, doors wouldn't open, levels wouldn't load properly, save files were being corrupted, right? Well, in 2010, a headline set the internet ablaze when people noticed that the logo for another cracking group called Myth existed in the executable file for Max Payne 2. Now, why would that be there unless the company was distributing a cracked version of Max Payne 2 through Steam? So following that debacle, that PR nightmare, Rockstar renamed Max Payne 2's original exe to testapp.exe and distributed another version of the executable. And a few days later, they did the same thing to Manhunt. Nobody had noticed that Manhunt had RAZER 1911 in the metadata, but when Manhunt was updated on Steam and it also included testapp.exe, people took notice, right? People said, oh, hey, what's going on with this? Why is there now a testapp.exe in Manhunt's files? And when people took that apart, they found the RZR watermark when looking at the executable in a hex editor. And later on in that same file, we see a string of text that says, RAZER 1911, sharper than a blade or your money back. So what does this all mean? Well, assuming everything that we've seen here is true, it means that Rockstar Games has been selling illegally cracked copies of their games on Steam for over a decade, my friends. And since so many gamers who legitimately purchased Manhunt have been experiencing these anti-crack measures that were deliberately meant to break the game and being distributed to these end users who legally purchased the game, I think we can assume that the allegations here might be true, right? And I think that all of the people who've bought the game on Steam since the release of Windows Vista are probably entitled to a refund here at a minimum. But see, it goes even further than that, because game modder and reverse engineering legend Silent got to wondering, has Rockstar done this with other titles? And the answer, it seems, is yes. Silent analyzed Midnight Club 2, which is a game that is no longer for sale on Steam, and he found that the Steam version also includes a testapp.exe. When he opened up the Midnight Club 2 executable in a hex editor, wouldn't you know it, there was evidence of that it was yet another illegal RAZER 1911 crack. Now, it's pretty hypocritical of Rockstar, of all companies, to sell illegally cracked copies of their own games. But honestly, the hypocrisy here is the least of my concerns, right? No, what's worse here to me is that according to the DMCA, it's illegal to distribute cracked copies of a game. And according to my layman's reading of the relevant sections of the DMCA, it doesn't even matter if you own the copyright to the work or not. A crack is a crack. It's circumvention of a, quote, technological measure that controls a work. And according to 17 U.S. Code Section 1201, no person shall circumvent a technological measure that effectively controls access to a work protected under this title. It's plain as day. I mean, it seems to me like Rockstar broke the law here. They commercially distributed and continue to commercially distribute cracked versions of their own software. They are continuing to expose Steam to some pretty extreme liability here too. Now, am I calling for Valve to delist all of Rockstar and Take-Two's games from Steam? No, not at all. But should law enforcement hold Rockstar and Take-Two criminally liable for the kind of activity that these two companies would actually press charges against if anyone else carried them out? Absolutely. The thing is, though, this is barely scratching the surface. See, as it turns out, all of these AAA gaming companies comprise an immoral, disreputable, and corrupt industry that needs to have serious regulations imposed on them. They cannot be trusted to regulate themselves. Because, you know, if you were naive, you would expect that companies like Microsoft and Sony and even Nintendo, of all companies, would have higher standards than the likes of Rockstar and Take-Two. But that would be if you were naive. You're not that naive. Nintendo specifically says on their website, can I download a ROM if I own the original game? And they answer, no. Downloading ROMs from direct download sites, linking sites, or other illegal sources, even when you own a copy of the video game, is not allowed under the Copyright Act. Yet, back in 2017, Eurogamer analyzed the Wii Virtual Console's release of Super Mario Bros. And found that that release of the game had identical ROM headers to those found in so-called pirated copies of Super Mario Bros. Distributed online for free from the very sites Nintendo say you cannot download the game from. I'm getting a little worked up. Not even Nintendo have clean hands here. This is just the tip of the iceberg, and these companies need to have a come to Jesus moment. They can't just keep pretending that they're the victim of people downloading their old delisted games for free, while also monetizing the very activity they claim is illegal and hurting them. This does illustrate how important, quote unquote, piracy is for the preservation of video games. Because Rockstar did this because they were too lazy to actually crack their own game, remove the SecuROM, remove the crack protection from their game. And they relied on community-made patches to do it, because really that's what this is. Now, you can argue that piracy is killing the industry, but when the industry itself is using the pirates' tools to preserve their old video game, decades-old video games, it really makes you stop and wonder. I'm just so sick of the video game industry, the gambling, the pushing gambling on children, the unethical monetization models that they use, the corruption in general, the ESRB, my God. But that's where you come in. What do you think can be done about any of this? What we talked about in this video, or the other corruption and disreputable behavior of the industry? Leave me a comment and let me know. If you're in any federal regulatory agency, what do you think can be done? What do you have the power to do? What do you think can be done? Leave me a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I think that's going to do it for this video, though. Thank you so much for watching. It's because of my Patreon supporters that I'm able to continue doing this. My YouTube members, my ViewSync subscribers, it's because of you guys that I'm able to continue doing this. So thank you very much. Now, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. It really helps the show out. It lets YouTube know that you want to see more videos just like this. You can also smash that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with all the fun stuff that I'm doing here on the channel. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.